Hello everyone, something a little bit different in this video. Normally I talk about Magic the Gathering content, but as I mentioned in this community post a few days ago, from my point of view at least, that's when I'm recording this, it's a little bit of a drought in September for Magic the Gathering content while we wait for Duskborn to come out, and obviously I'll be doing content based around that set when more previews get released and I make some Get Decked videos. So I thought I would take the opportunity this month in September to talk about a new passion of mine, which is a game I've just discovered called Flames of Orion, and it's a fun little mech tabletop war game. And I thought it'd just be fun to do a quick video where I just talk about that and just kind of let you know about it, and maybe have a bit of content about that this month. Just try something a little bit different. So in this video, we're going to talk about Flames of Orion. So what is Flames of Orion? So, I think we can all probably agree, if you're the sort of person watching this channel, that mechs are cool, either kind of clunky Western mechs or cool anime mechs. Yeah, I think we can agree mechs are pretty cool. Who doesn't like kind of big, stompy, giant robots fighting each other? And if you're the sort of person watching this kind of video, you probably agree that tabletop wargaming is also pretty cool. I know I definitely think that. So you would think a wonderful mix is obviously tabletop wargaming and mechs, and that's why we have games like the BattleTech universe, that whole franchise, that whole range of games, and plenty of other games that do mech on mech combat. However, I have tried to get into these in the past, at various stages. And what I've found is that these games are usually quite crunchy and quite complex. And I just kind of bounce off hard of them. They've got really big rule books. And I don't know about you, but I'm sort of getting to the age now where I just don't have the time to like really invest and like learn a lot of complex rules for a game that I'm really not honestly going to play that regularly. I need something kind of quick and snappy and bite size, something I can easily learn and play and sort of introduce to other people who might not have played this sort of game before as well. So I can be like an ambassador of the game, I can run games with it, get people into it, and just generally have a good time. Kind of like, like a board game, honestly. So that's when I discovered Flames of Orion. So a lot of tabletop content creators I follow have been mentioning this recently, and I thought I would give it a go because they were seeing a lot of praise about it, like, oh, it's a really nice, quick, simple, easy mech-based combat game. So I thought, well, what harm can there be in checking out, especially as the rules are currently free because it's an alpha test. So they'll probably keep adding to it, but I thought I'd give it a go, and I really, really liked what I read. So, Flames of Orion is produced by the e-zine Under the Dice. It's written by Stephen Hupfer, and basically what it is, it's a mech combat game. There is a bit of lore to it. It's not super deep, but basically it's set in the Orion sector, which is like all the stars have gone out, the sun's gone out. So it's this kind of very bleak, post-apocalyptic kind of setting with just like these bands of mechs kind of scavenging and fighting each other, basically under like in like a dying galaxy, essentially, or a dying solar system. So it's very, very grimdark. I think one of the works that Stephen mentioned in his inspiration was like Dark Souls, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's you don't have to like commit. It's like to the setting. It's not like Warhammer where like the setting and the lore like really affects the game. It's just there if you want it, just to give a bit of flavor, but like it's not pivotal to the game. You can easily just play this without knowing anything about the lore. It's absolutely fine. What I really like about Flames of Orion is that it seems to draw quite a bit of inspiration as well from one-page rules, which is a rules set that I'm very, very keen of. It's because I used to be really into Warhammer, and sort of due to complexity creep and power creep and just general dissatisfaction where the game's going, I sort of fell out of love with that and fell in love with one-page rules, which is it's a free rule set. there's a theme here. I like free things, and this really like streamlined the whole tabletop wargame experience for me. Like my friends and I, we kind of like completely abandoned Warhammer like a few years ago, and we've been playing one-page rules ever since, and we really, really like it. Just because it's what works for us. It's very quick, simple, easy to understand rule set, very very clean. We just like a lot what it does, and Flames of Orion has a lot of the same things that I really like in one-page rules. So yeah, really, really enjoyed reading it, and I've had a few games of it, and that's why I really wanted to talk about it, because I'm really excited about it. It's like my new kind of flavor of the month, and I really wanted to do a video where I just kind of like gush about it a little bit, honestly. So, going to talk quickly about how Flames of Orion plays. I mean, the short answer, very, very well. But yeah, as I said, it's kind of units of mechs. Each player controls like a little unit of mechs, and you just fight each other. And you might have a certain mission where you have to achieve certain objectives, but for the most part, you're just going to be blowing each other up, and it's very quick and very simple and very easy to understand. So let's quickly quickly go over what you need to actually play Flames of Orion. So you need models, obviously, at least 4 mechs per side. I'll cover the model bit in a little while. You need dice. It uses d6s for all the rolls. That you don't need a lot of d6s. It's not like Warhammer where you need a bucket of dice. You'll be fine, I think, with just like 2d6, honestly, like per player. You need a tape measure just to measure ranges. We'll cover that as well. You'll need something like tracking methods, so like paper, pen, tokens, extra dice, whatever. And this is to track stuff like mechs health and like heat levels, kind of stuff like that. And also you need somewhere to play as well. So it recommends at least a 2 foot by 2 foot area. Again, it's not like Warhammer where you need like maybe like a really big table. I think the maximum playing size it recommends is about 3 foot by 3 foot. So that's like easy like a kitchen table. So that in itself is also makes it quite nice and accessible. You don't need like a huge area dedicated to it. We'll quickly talk about the models as well. So Flames of Orion is model agnostic. You don't have to have specific models to represent your mechs. So what I've been doing is using the BattleTech models from Catalyst. These are really nice. You get about 5 of these in a box usually, and they're really, really nice models. They're single piece. Don't have to glue them. There's no assembly required. So this is what I've been using. Ramshackle Games have also started making a range of official models for Flames of Orion, and I think these are perfectly fine if you want to get them. They have like this more kind of like grimdark kind of junkyard feel to them, which I think matches like the intended like tone of the game and like the vibe and the lore. Or if you don't have access to models, if you can't get them, you can just use other things. Like you don't have to go as far as like this amazing Lego creation, but any kind of suitable proxies you got, like any kind of like little like robot toys or say like Lego pieces, anything like that to represent mechs, I think is absolutely fine. If you don't want to sink any money into trying out, because I say the rules are free, and if you don't want to sink money into getting models, then you can use whatever you've got to hand just to try out the rules, which I think is really nice. So we're going to talk about before the game actually starts. So you've got all your bits together, you've got your dice, you've got your models. So let's talk about what happens before the game actually begins. So you have to create a combat unit. So a lot of the I'll say now, a lot of the rules kind of default based around this kind of idea of like you're going to play a campaign, like a series of like linked games where your unit is going to kind of get experience, get skills, going to grow, you're going to get more kind of resources. So if we're just going to assume you're going to play just like a sort of like a one-off game, so you have 4 mechs instantly for free. You don't have to, you just have them. You just have 4 mechs, and they form your combat unit. And you start off with 150 credits to outfit them with like weapons, upgrades, modifications, all that kind of stuff. And then this other stuff here about buying a new mech costs 40 credits, all that kind of stuff. That is for the linked sort of like campaign play. You only use 4 mechs per game, no matter. I know it says here buying a new mech costs 40 credits. That is if you're playing a linked game and like you have mechs who are destroyed, or you want to add extra units to your roster, that kind of thing. So we're going to assume you just have 4 mechs and you spend your 150 credits to outfit them with weapons and gear and stuff. And then I love this, is literally in the rules you have to give each model a call sign, give your combat unit name, and then you spend credits on equipment. So yeah, let's dive into that. And then when we start the game, you roll off to see what mission you're going to play. There's 5, I think, in the default rules, which is kind of a weird number. You kind of would expect there to be 6, but these are just a mix of like straight up just shoot each other, or like capture objectives, or like do a take and hold, or like get the most objects off the board, that kind of thing, kind of like a loot kind of scenario. Nice big like range of them. Tells you how to set up the board and the terrain, and also like deployment zones. This is how you're actually going to set up the models, so you can either set them up on a board edge or in the corners, and just give you some rules for that. I'm talking about like I'm assuming if you're watching this, you have some sort of experience playing tabletop war games. Some of this might be like brand new information to you. If you might not have experience doing this kind of thing, but I think the way it's presented is like quite nice and straightforward, and I think it explains it, I think, pretty well. It does this nice structure of like how to actually begin and set up the game. Right, so once you've done that, determine what mission, and you've set up your models, we actually go into the actual game. We actually play the game. Mission start. So the game is broken down into phases and rounds, kind of like you would expect for Magic the Gathering. So a turn is split up into 3 phases. You have an initiative phase, an activation phase, and a heat phase. And after all that's done, you start a whole new round. And again, the mission will tell you how long, how many rounds you play. I think it's typically like 4 or 5. So we'll quickly look at the phases. So the first one I'll just quickly cover here. It's the initiative phase. This is literally just a roll off to see who's going to activate models first. So unlike Warhammer, if you haven't experienced Warhammer, where one player activates all their units, the other player then activates all their units, and that's one whole round. Flames Orion uses alternate activation. So what happens is one player will activate one mech, and the next player will activate one of theirs, and then back to the other player like that. Kind of like chess, just back and forth until everything is activated, and then you start a whole new round. So we're going to cover the activation phase. I've sort of just talked about it there, but yeah, players take turns alternating activation, starting with the person who won the initiative roll. So a mech can perform 2 actions when it's chosen to activate. So these actions can be to move, make attacks with ranged or melee weapons. You can disengage, which is if you're in close combat with another mech, you can move away. Purge heat, which we'll cover a bit later, because heat is a very, very important element in the game. And you use upgrades. Some upgrades you might have might require you to use an action, like the target uplink or something like that. It requires a dedicated action to use that ability. So as I say, you can perform up to 2 actions a turn. You can perform a second action. Performing a second action generates heat, and we'll cover heat because it's very important. You can perform actions in any order, so you can like move and shoot, or shoot and move, shoot twice if you want. The only thing with weapons is you can't use the same weapon more than once per activation. And you can also bolster one of your actions once per activation. So a bolstered action basically boosts it, gives it an extra effect. So like you might be able to move further. You might get a bonus when you make your attack. Like you might be able to fire multiple weapons at once in a single action. That kind of stuff. So bolstering is very, very cool. But again, that generates heat, which is again. So there's this really nice like risk reward thing, because getting heat is bad. You definitely don't want to get a lot of heat. But sometimes you have to gain heat to perform extra actions or to get the bolster. So it's a real nice little skill test minigame, I think. So we're going to talk about the actual like stats of the mech and go over kind of like really how nice and like streamlined and bare bones these stat lines are. So all mechs have these stats. Like this is actually one criticism I would have. It would be nice, I think, to have different stat lines for like light, medium, heavy mechs, but it's fine as is. That might be added in a later version. So I'll quickly go through the stats. So S is your speed. That's how far they move in inches when they take a move action. CS is their combat score. This is the minimum number you need to roll on a dice for them to make an attack. So 4+ means you need to roll 4, 5, or 6 on a dice when they attack for it to be a success. Armor is their armor value. When they take damage, you roll a dice for every point of damage. If you roll that armor value, so 6+ in this case, or just a natural 6, you've got some upgrades that increase armor. You ignore the damage. HP is your hull points. So when that's reduced to 0, your mech is disabled. Heat limit is how much heat you can have when you hit the heat limit. You deactivate because you overheat. And platforms is the number of weapons and upgrades you can have. So say all mechs have the same abilities. So we'll quickly go through the attack structure and just kind of demonstrate really how simple it is. So you choose a weapon and a target in range, with very, very few exceptions. All weapons basically have unlimited range. Obviously, you've got like melee weapons, which can only hit targets within, say, like 1 inch. You've got stuff like flamethrowers that have only got like a 10-inch range. Aside from that, everything has unlimited range. However, there are penalties for shooting at targets beyond 10 inches. You then make a combat score roll, which is, as I discussed, a roll there. So you normally want to get 4 up. You might have bonuses or penalties applied to that. As I said, there is a penalty for shooting at a target beyond 10 inches. You might have a particular upgrade that gives you a bonus on a roll, for certain conditions. So most of the time it's just 4+. If you hit the target, they have to make a 1 armor roll per point of damage. So most weapons inflict 2 damage. So like light weapons inflict 1 damage, medium weapons inflict 2, heavy weapons inflict 3 or more damage. So if you took a hit from a medium weapon, that's 2 damage. You would have to make 2 armor rolls. And you lose 1 hull point for every point of unsaved damage. There are also some weapons that completely bypass armor as well, which are pretty dangerous. But you lose 1 hull point for every point of unsaved damage, and then if you're reduced to 0 hull points, the mech is disabled, and then you have to make an explode check, because there is a chance these mechs, explode. Obviously, they might just shut down and become kind of disabled wrecks, or they might just explode. And that is a roll of a dice, and on a 3+, then they explode. And how potent the explosion is depends how much heat they have. So, on the subject of heat, after all the mechs have activated, you then have a heat phase. So, after all mechs have activated, as it says here, each model in the field must make a heat check, and this is basically just a roll of a d6. It's basically on a 1 to 2, you gain no heat. On a 3 plus, and on a 3 plus, you'll gain a certain number of heat. So, even if you're not taking extra actions, even if you're not bolstering, you do build up heat, and like this adds like a real like ticking clock to the thing, and adds a real like sense of danger to the game. Actually, if you are being very reckless with a certain thing, because you could have a mech build up sort of like 4 or 5 heat in a turn, which is really really dangerous. Especially if you don't purge it. And that's the only way of getting rid of heat is taking the purge heat action, which is that is your whole turn. That's the only thing you can do. So we'll talk about heat, as you know, it's come up a lot with the heat checks, and I've talked about it a lot. So heat is, you gain heat when you perform multiple actions in a turn. You bolster an action, which is once per activation, which gives you the extra effect. You roll a heat check during the heat phase. You can gain heat from that. If you use or take damage from certain weapons, so certain like energy weapons like railguns cause you to gain heat when you fire them, because they're kind of experimental and dangerous. You can also take heat by being hit by heat-based weapons like flamethrowers that can cause you to gain extra heat. And also there are various like mission rules that let you gain heat. I think there's one of the missions is like the star is going radioactive or something. There's like a solar flare or something. So the temperature is really high, and basically everyone like gets extra heat per turn in addition to heat checks. So that adds another whole layer of danger to it. So say when your heat equals your heat limit, which for most mechs is 10, you can increase it with upgrades. Your mech is disabled, and once again you make an explosion check to see if they explode. And the higher the heat limit, so if you went up right up to 10 heat and you explode, that is like a bomb going off. It's a huge range explosion. It does a whole bunch of damage, and it's really fun actually, because you can generate heat willingly by bolstering actions, and it's really nice actually that you're overheating. An explosion happens after your action is completed. So if you have like a really damaged mech who's maybe on their last points or whatever, you can effectively turn them into send them on a word blocked by YouTube mission where you generate a whole bunch of heat, get them up to 10, get them right up into the enemy, and then they explode and do a huge explosion and do a bunch of damage to your opponents as well. So that's a really fun little thing you can do with that. But most of the time you want to like be managing your heat and venting it, so you don't accidentally blow up. And then there's a whole bunch of other extra rules in the game for including non-mech units if you want to do that. So like infantry and ground vehicles, air combat units, if you have small scale models that you want to include there for certain scenarios or custom missions you want to make. Say there's this whole subsystem for like playing linked games. So you have like this whole after action phase where you roll for like lingering damage on mechs that were destroyed, and then you can like discover loot, you can get extra credits, extra weapons, that kind of thing. And there is this whole example, the Sumar conflict, which is this series of linked missions that is meant for a group to play, and it's a whole you dominate a territory and like see who's first to win, who's first to control all these territories and become like the winner of the overall campaign. So if you have like a gaming club who meets regularly, you can do this, and you like do a big linked campaign, which I imagine would be a lot of fun. But I unfortunately don't have the access to do that, so I'm mostly just going to be playing these kind of like one-off games. And that's pretty much it. Honestly, there's it's a very very lean rulebook, Flames of Orion. It's about, I'd say, 30 pages, and I'd say only about 10 of that is like the core rules, and that's like with artwork as well, and the rest of it is like the campaign stuff or like lore. So yeah, it's really a nice, quick, easy game to pick up and play. So yeah, in summary, it is cheap because the rules are free, and you can use whatever you have around to represent mechs. And even if you want to buy mechs, you don't need a lot of them. It's not like Warhammer. You're building up a huge army of guys. Like you need 4 at minimum. You need 4 mechs, and say that is one box of those BattleTech miniatures. I say they come in usually boxes of 5. It's easy to learn. I've given you basically the majority of the rules already in this video. Obviously there's a bit more to it than that, but it's still pretty easy to learn. It's quick to play. I've had a couple of games they took about an hour, and that was being brand new to it and having to reference a few things. Lots of replayability, I think, with the campaign options. If you play like all those linked battles and stuff, there's very much a chance that like no no campaign will ever be the same because you'll make different discoveries. You'll get different random rolls, that kind of thing. So really, really fun, I think. And ultimately, it is lots of fun because it's big robots fighting each other. And as I say, people really like big robots fighting each other. And another benefit which I really like is because it's actually quite a nice, simple, elegant system. It's actually very, very friendly to hack around and homebrew stuff for. So I've done that. I've made a whole bunch of extra rules. I mentioned before. Oh, it's a shame there's not rules for like heavy, light, and medium mechs. I've done that. I've done some homebrew rules. I've created some new weapons and new upgrades and stuff. So yeah, that's been really fun. And I thought I would just finish off the video by showing you some of the mech units I've put together. This is with just a couple of boxes of the BattleTech models. I managed to make 3 little units here. So we have Desert Fang. So this is a unit I've put together which is focused more on getting up close really quickly. They will have like increased movement, and they have close range weapons like flamethrowers. This is kind of basically like the assault faction. This is the Unga Bunga smash, get up close and do a bunch of damage. Don't really care about the objectives, just like killing the enemy units. So yeah, really really fun with them. Zeta Core, this is in my mind the techie faction I've got here. So I've given them all the kind of fun upgrades like target uplink and cyber warfare systems, and like fun weapons like AI missiles, special ammo, that kind of thing. So these are the techie boys. And then Squadron Robo 674. These are, in my imagination, these are the kind of these are ex-soldiers. These are like kind of like the remnants, maybe, of the military in the Orion system, who are just kind of getting through the day. So this is the all-rounder faction for in my games. These are the solid all-rounders, just nothing flashy, just good solid weapons, good variety of weapons, and playstyles. So they can sort of they can do a bit of anything, you know. And then yeah, so it's a really fun game, honestly. And so I'll put all the links in the description. I'll put a link to the Flames of Orion rules manual and the website. I'll also put a link to a Google Doc with my house rules if you want to check those out. If that's inspired you to play and give them a try. But yeah, I thought it'd be fun just to do this video and talk about a game that I've just discovered. I'm really really passionate about. I really really enjoy it. I'd love to know what you think about this one. If you put a comment down below and let me know what you think about Flames of Orion. Is it a game that you're interested in? Have I made it sound appealing? Are you going to check it out? Are you going to give it a go? Are you already playing it? Yeah, I'm just really excited to talk about it. And I think I might try and put together a few maybe battle report videos for this, actually, just to show you, if you're on the fence, just to show you how it plays and stuff. And also that would be fun for me to try and do battle report videos. But I really hope you enjoyed this video where I was talking about Flames of Orion. I say, stick a comment down below if you've got any thoughts. But until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have an amazing day.